Good morning. Good morning. This morning, I wanted to share with you some thoughts from Mark chapter 4. We'll go through a good portion of Mark chapter 4 this morning, the parable of the sower, and also a couple of other parables, and just speak to those for a few. So I will start at the very beginning of Mark chapter 4. Again, he, that is Jesus, began to teach beside the sea. And a very large crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat in it on the sea, and the whole crowd was beside the sea on the land. And just a side note here, real quick. I think about how Jesus said to the fishermen, "Come follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." He hasn't yet sent them out as apostles, but he's using their gift and knowledge about, in this case, using boats to be part of his ministry to help teach so that he could have some space and be able to teach the crowd. And he was teaching them many things in parables. And parables are stories with a spiritual purpose. And in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell along the path." So this is somebody who's spreading seed. He's sowing seed. Some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. Other seed fell on rocky ground where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprang up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seeds fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing, and yielding 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. And he said, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." So to the large crowd, this is what they hear. They hear this story about 4 different kinds of soil, if you will, or 4 different areas where the seed fell and what the response was. In one case, birds came, ate it up quickly. Another, it didn't have much soil, sprang up, but the sun rose and it withered away. One, it grew up, but there were thorns that choked it. And the fourth is the fruitful ground that yields differing amounts, but all bountiful yields of fruitfulness. And so he tells the crowds, he says, "Listen," at the beginning, and "he who has ears, let him hear." So now we're going to get his explanation to his disciples and to those who, I guess, came around his 12 disciples. Because it says, "And when he was alone, those around him with the 12 asked him about the parables." So there are those who had an interest enough that they wanted to know, "What are you talking about? What does this mean?" And he said to them, "To you has been given the secret of the kingdom of God, but for those outside everything is in parables, so that they may indeed see but not perceive, and may indeed hear but not understand, lest they should turn and be forgiven." There is a hidden nature in the parables of the truth that God's giving. And to those who weren't going to press in, it would stay hidden. They would hear, but they wouldn't understand. But for those who would press in, as we're going to see, it actually presents this vibrant illustration. But without the key of understanding, they wouldn't get that. So it was really almost a test. A parable is like a test. How much do you really want to know the truth? Are you willing to press in and to really seek the truth, or is it a passing interest? And as we're going to see, that's kind of what the parable of the sower gets to. It's almost a parable about the nature of parables. And he said to them, "Do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all the parables?" So there's something about the parable of the sower. If you understand this, it'll help you to understand all the parables. "The sower sows the word," particularly the word about the kingdom of God, who Jesus is, what he's come to do. "And these are the ones along the path, where the word is sown. When they hear, Satan immediately comes and takes away the word that was sown in them." Now, I don't believe Satan has access directly to the hearts of people, But Satan is called the prince of the power of the air. And now more than ever, we have so many distractions. So I believe Satan is kind of guiding the world system. So, you know, you hear something and then 5 notifications pop up on your smartphone, as an example, or something comes up on TV, or just something's put in front of you that distracts you, that guides you away from even being able to consider what you've just heard. Got to go on to the next thing. So I believe that can be an example. I'm not going to say it's always like every smartphone notification you get. Oh, that's Satan. No, I don't want to say that, but just to say that um, Satan can put things in front of us to keep us from really thinking about and digesting and understanding the word. And these are the ones sown on rocky ground, the ones who, when they hear the word, immediately receive it with joy. There's reception initially, and they have no root in themselves, but endure for a while. Then, when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately they fall away. So there isn't a deep heart of love for the word and for the one disclosed in the word, Jesus, that allows a willingness to go through suffering for his account. And others are the ones sown among thorns. They are those who hear the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches and the desires for other things enter in and choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. Man, this is a powerful warning to especially us in 21st century America, where there's constantly so many things that we could desire. There's this promise of the allure of riches. If you can just make more money, all the things it will do for you, the things you'll be able to have, the cares of the world, just the normal day-to-day things that we have to attend to. There's so many things to do, but those can distract us sufficiently that the word isn't bearing fruit in our lives. It can also cause us to not want to obey if, for example, we're going to have to do something or say something that could be unpopular, and so we're afraid, well, what will it cause me to lose? I have this care about how people think of me, or how it might imperil my economic status if I obey God. And so this is a huge draw, especially in the West. We're not so much suffering direct persecution yet, but there's so many cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. And so these different kinds of soil, the to the disciples, and they would serve as an illustration of how people are going to respond to the word. That there's going to be different kinds of response as it continues to go out. And this is also going to be a bit of a warning of what kind of soil are you? And a warning to help them guard against these bad responses to the word. But then finally, those who were sown on the good soil are the ones who hear the word and accept it and bear fruit 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. So different yields of fruit. Apparently like a 5 to 10-fold yield would be pretty good. So we're talking about all three numbers are very bountiful yields. So initially hearing, accepting in, believing on, and then bearing fruit. So living the life becomes conformed and consistent with what the word says, bearing fruit of love, of thankfulness, of obedience, the fruit of the Spirit. That all kind of falls under it. And now he's going to follow up with a couple more parables, 3 more parables. And he said to them, or this kind of an illustration, maybe not a parable initially. Is a lamp brought in to be put under a basket or under a bed and not on a stand? For nothing is hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret except to come to light. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. And he said to them, pay attention to what you hear. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and still more will be added to you. For to the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So here's the key to fruit bearing, I believe, that Jesus is giving us. Use or respond to what we already have. Respond to the truth of who Jesus is. Respond to the teachings that he's telling us of how he wants us to live. Respond. And he says more will be given. More understanding of who he is, more growth and maturity. But the one who hears and doesn't respond, even that truth is going to be taken away from him. And ultimately, the presence of Jesus is taken away from those who don't respond. In context, ultimately Jesus would be taken away. He would die and rise again, and he would no longer be with that generation. Now they had his disciples, but if they didn't respond, then what they had would be taken away. So here's a couple encouraging parables on the heels of that, because it's heavy. Hopefully it's sitting as heavy on you as it is on me. And he said, the kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed on the ground. He sleeps and rises night and day, and the seed sprouts and grows, he knows not how. The earth produces by itself first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. But when the grain is ripe, at once he puts in the sickle, because the harvest has come. There's growth. God does grow. He's growing his kingdom. We don't know how. The word's sown, and God brings the increase. It is happening in a way that's imperceptible. It's somewhat mysterious, but God is making it happen. And so he finishes out the parables with this, the parable of the mustard seed. And he said, with what can we compare the kingdom of God, or what parable shall we use for it? It is like a grain of mustard seed, which, when sown on the ground, it is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it is sown, it grows up and becomes larger than all the garden plants, and puts out large branches so that the birds of the air can make nests in its shade. With many such parables he spoke the word to them, as they were able to hear it. He did not speak to them without a parable, but privately to his own disciples he explained everything. So this last parable, the parable of the mustard seed, is talking about the way the kingdom of God is. With what can we compare the kingdom of God? So it starts small. It started with a small group of people in Israel 2,000 years ago. But it grows. He says it grows and it becomes a large plant, larger than all of the garden plants, or large, I guess he says it becomes a tree. And so here's the beautiful thing. We can look, with 2,000 years of hindsight, we can now look and we can see, okay, here we are, literally thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, I think, away from Israel. And yet the kingdom of God has reached to us. The kingdom of God has grown, and it will continue to grow. It's growing in South America. It's growing in Africa, despite what's happening, in the West, the global Western, Northern, and Western Hemisphere. It's growing in many areas, and it's continuing to grow and reach new people. And so that's a great encouragement to us. So may the Lord encourage our hearts to personally respond, but then also be those who take part in sowing the word among family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, because God will bring his increase. We know that many won't respond to the word, but some will. But may we be those who respond. May we be those who hear and pay attention and use the measure that's given to us. May the Lord give us grace today to do so. Love you all. Have a good day.